In the days of the Roman Republic, no measure could be voted on in the Roman Senate until every senator had been given a chance to speak. If a senator didn't want the vote to happen, he could just keep talking, as the vote had to occur before nightfall, or not at all. This process was called, well, this Latin phrase that I'm not going to try to pronounce. It means consume the day, and it happened quite often. This Dutch word, which I'm also not going to try to pronounce, translates directly as freebooter, although it can also mean pirate. By the 1850s, a variation on this word had come into general use, at least in U.S. political circles, to mean a process that has since evolved into a means of hijacking the Senate, as a pirate might hijack a ship. The ancient Romans would have been proud. There are a lot of calls to eliminate the filibuster. This is understandable, with the process having gone well beyond its original use to something that even 19th century senators wouldn't recognize as anything useful. But can the filibuster be salvaged, or is it damaged beyond repair? We're going to look at the history and the possible fixes for the filibuster on this episode of Progressive Solutions. As always, I want to hear from you. What topics would you like to see covered? What did you like or maybe didn't like about the way this topic was approached? Let me know your ideas in the comments below. And if you like this video and want to see more, hit that thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe. Also, ring the bell so that you can be notified of future videos as they come out. The seeds of the modern filibuster may have been planted in 1805 when Vice President Aaron Burr, who was presiding over the Senate even though he was indicted for the murder of Alexander Hamilton, complained about Senate rules and an attempt was made to simplify them. One rule that was eliminated was calling the previous question. This means calling for a vote on whatever bill is being debated at the time. In standard practice, when someone calls the previous question, it means everybody has to vote right away on whether to end debate and vote on the bill. By eliminating this easiest way to end debate with a simple majority vote, the road to the filibuster was opened, but it took decades before senators really started going down that road in big numbers, as it really didn't get going until the 1830s. In 1841, Senator Henry Clay threatened to change Senate rules when his banking bill was being filibustered. Another senator argued that Clay was trying to stifle the Senate's right to unfettered debate. By the 1880s, after the end of the Reconstruction era, filibusters began to be used a lot to fight civil rights legislation. Now, this wouldn't have bothered future President Woodrow Wilson because he was an active racist, but when he was president and a small minority in the Senate derailed not only his war preparedness plans, but also blocked passage of appropriations bills, Wilson fought back. Wilson noted, "The Senate of the United States is the only legislative body in the world which cannot act when its majority is ready for action. A little group of willful men, representing no opinion but their own, have rendered the great government of the United States helpless and contemptible." The result was version 1 of the so-called cloture rule. Under this version, the only way to end debate was with the support of 2/3 of the senators voting, and even then, after cloture was invoked, every senator still got another hour to speak. Cloture was invoked a grand total of 5 times over the next 46 years. Yeah, that's right. Only 5 times. Why? Well, partly it was because senators understood that except in extraordinary circumstances, any attempt to filibuster would run into cloture. In other words, they had to have a strong reason behind their filibuster, or the filibuster would just fail. But largely, the failure to invoke cloture was due to the Senate's willingness to let long filibusters go on, even if they interfered with the other business of the Senate. In fact, the cloture vote to end the filibuster of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 didn't succeed until 60 days had passed. By the 1970s, filibusters were becoming so common, and with the business of the federal government and of the Senate having grown a lot since 1917, they were interfering with even regular business. In 1975, Democratic Senator Walter Mondale and Republican Senator James Pearson offered a mild change, reducing the threshold for cloture from 2/3 to 3/5. In other words, instead of needing 67 votes, they only needed 60 votes. Except that the rule was changed from 2/3 of senators voting to 3/5 of all senators. In other words, before the rule, if a senator didn't vote on cloture, they just didn't vote. After the rule, if they didn't vote on cloture, they might as well have voted no for all practical purposes. The result was that senators no longer needed to be present to keep a filibuster going. What's more, an informal procedural change that put multiple bills on the pending file meant that a filibuster didn't even need to be carried out, just threatened in order to kill a bill. The system is broken and it must be fixed. But how? Do we need to eliminate the filibuster completely? Or is there a way to give the minority a true voice in the Senate while still allowing bills to pass with majority support? Fortunately, there are a variety of proposals to adjust the rules to continue to allow the filibuster and even let it be occasionally effective while not letting it get in the way of Senate business, at least not very often. And now let's get started before I filibuster my way through this entire video. In 2007, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid actually had sleeping cots brought onto the Senate floor to highlight the all-night session he had called. Republicans were filibustering bipartisan amendments to the defense appropriations bill that would have brought our troops home from Iraq. This all-night session would require Republicans to actually filibuster the old-fashioned way. As a result, 2 cloture motions succeeded. In fact, one of them got 89 votes. Why? Because when filibustering requires actual work, and especially work in front of TV cameras, many senators shy away. And these all-night sessions go back a long way. They're nothing new. New rules that require that a substantial number of senators be close enough to the Senate chamber at all times to rush in for a vote would wreak havoc with many senators on both sides of the aisle and render a filibuster that much more difficult. Meanwhile, we can ensure that all filibusters have to be done in front of TV cameras. It won't stop some senators, at least not all the time, but it'll stop a lot of filibusters from happening. There are lots of people with ideas, and many of them with very good elements. So here's one set of proposed changes that could make a significant difference in how the Senate deals with filibusters. We start with changing the rules so that a cloture motion passes with 3/5 of the senators voting, not just 3/5 of all senators, and we also allow a new cloture motion on any particular filibuster every hour. This way, filibustering senators have to be constantly ready to vote to continue the filibuster, while those who want to stop it only need to muster once. Why? Because the majority knows that if they don't have enough votes, they don't need to show up for the cloture motion, while those who want to continue the filibuster need to be there to be certain that they can continue. It would also be a way to gauge which way support for the filibuster was moving. If succeeding cloture motions lose support, then momentum itself might kill the bill and the filibuster would succeed. But if succeeding motions gain votes, then the end of the filibuster is near. A second change has to do with the rules of an old-style filibuster. Under current rules, a senator holding the floor can only yield to another senator for a question. Currently, that means that any senator could come to the floor with a long list of questions already prepared. But if senators could only ask a question if they had been present in the Senate chamber since the start of the filibuster, it would limit filibuster length dramatically because a lot of senators won't be able to last. A third rule change would make it impossible to move a bill to the back burner. Instead, bills get lined up for consideration, and once a bill's turn comes to the front, it's the only bill being considered. A filibuster would hold up all Senate business until that bill is either voted on or withdrawn. Right now, senators can filibuster without blocking other legislation. If a filibuster actively blocks other legislation again, which hasn't happened for a long time, that changes the equation, and a lot of senators just don't want to be the ones responsible for that. The other side of that, though, is that the minority has a chance to force consideration of a bill they want, even if they know they're going to lose. The majority leader might offer to put a minority party bill into that lineup in exchange for the minority party not filibustering the bill that the majority wants. Yeah, I know. Bipartisan cooperation seems to have disappeared in Washington over the past few decades, but this might help bring it back. Finally, under current rules, a cloture vote only limits debate to 30 more hours after the vote. Let's cut that down to 2 hours, evenly divided between the two sides. That way, a cloture vote really is a cloture vote. All of these rule changes still give the minority party plenty of opportunity to oppose legislation they don't like and even allow for actual filibusters. And occasionally, a filibuster might still succeed in killing a bill. But keep in mind that in the early decades of the filibuster, almost every bill that was filibustered eventually passed. Even the Civil Rights Acts of 1957 and 1964 passed despite very long filibusters. The 64 Act was filibustered for 2 whole months. But with the system currently in place, the filibuster is a highly effective tool for the minority party to kill legislation. It stymies progress and it leads to more cynicism about government. And that plays directly into the hands of the extreme right wing. With these changes, bills still would require a supermajority to proceed to a vote on the bill, and then, of course, a simple majority to pass, and it still gives the minority party a voice, at least in Senate proceedings. But that supermajority for procedural votes would be a lot easier to achieve and wouldn't even have to happen as often, as a lot of bills would just get to a vote. This is just one proposed package of rule changes that would preserve the filibuster and the voice of the minority while also keeping the Senate moving on legislation. It would restore something close to a proper balance between these two competing goals. Okay, now it's your turn. Well, how would you fix the filibuster? Or do you think it's just a waste of time and favor eliminating it completely? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Stay progressive. Filibusters. Okay, English language. I can't. Okay, I'm going to bounce around now. I don't know why I did that.